So for this handout, we're going to be learning about texture and space, which are our last two elements of art. Texture is the way something feels or looks like it can feel. We use texture in art, the visual texture or the implied texture, to draw something that looks like it should feel. Real or tactile texture, it uses your sense of touch. So, if I touch this paper, it's smooth. If I touch any kind of cloth or fabric, it's going to feel silky or smooth depending on what it's made out of. But here's some examples of tactile texture in the real world. But I want you to try to replicate this texture using pencil. So you could use a little bit of shading, a little bit of value, and a little bit of contour drawing to try to create those textures. So this one's cotton balls. So we can just try to draw those different cotton balls to create a soft texture. And then I'm going to shade it in. It doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as you get the general idea, but obviously it needs to be neat. So just trying to recreate that texture a little bit. And then you have your brick texture here. So I'm just going to draw my bricks. You don't really need a lot of shading for this one. But I'm going to kind of add a little bit of stippling to give it that rough texture on the bricks. And then just a really light shading for the concrete or mortar between the bricks. All right, now this one's hard. This one's silky, and we want to try to create those folds in that silky fabric. So there's that big line there. And then we're going to kind of blend it out. There's this little fold right here. If you ever took an art class in college, you'd actually have to sit and draw a bunch of folds in fabric one day as a study. And here's this fold right here. It's a little bit darker. So there's a few of those textures, just trying to create them visually using pencil. Now we're going to move on to space, and space is the area around, inside, or between shapes or forms. And the element of space is used to create the illusion of depth, and artists can do this in 6 ways. And we're going to use circles to illustrate these different ways. So our first one's overlapping. So artists overlap objects in their drawings or paintings to show distance. So this one's supposed to look closer, so it's going to overlap the one that's a little bit farther away. Artists also use size or scale. So scale, so this one's a little bit bigger. And objects that are supposed to be farther away are going to look smaller. Placement depends on, this is really helpful when you have landscapes or seascapes or any kind of outside drawing. So you have your horizon line, and that's the line where the sky meets the ground. And objects that are farther away are going to be closer to the horizon line. And they're going to be a little bit smaller. Then we also have detail. So say you have this circle here. But as things get farther away, they're supposed to get fuzzier. So you could have a circle like this. And this is a really good example. If you see like pictures of the mountains, they get a little bit fuzzier, or trees, they get fuzzier as they get farther away. All right, color and value. So again, if you're looking at a picture of the mountains are actually going to be darker the closer they are to you. And then as they go farther out, they're going to get lighter and lighter. So we could shade one of our circles and create a sphere. And also, like we learned when we created value, artists use shading to make things look three-dimensional. And then a little bit lighter. And perspective. So artists use different types of perspective drawing. There's 3 different types. I'm going to show you one-point perspective, and this is good when trying to write things in 3D. So you want to start with your vanishing point, which is just a dot. And I have my circle here. And then you're going to connect your sides to that vanishing point. And you could create a cylinder that looks like it's disappearing off into space. That's why it's called a vanishing point. It looks like your objects are vanishing into that point. And there you have a cylinder. So there's 6 different ways that you can create the illusion of space in your artwork.